Hi, everyone. Welcome to Crossover Media's Featured Programmer of the Week. This week we have WUOL's Program Director and weekday afternoon host, Daniel Gilliam. Hi, Daniel. Congrats on being our featured programmer.
Hey, thanks for asking.
So, how did you first get into radio?
I started working on weekends, Saturday mornings. There was an opening at in our local public radio station, the one that I work at now, and I was doing several part-time jobs. It was right after grad school, and so I got into it that way, and then eventually moved up to working weekdays, drive time, and then eventually becoming the manager of the station. So that's the short of it.
Yeah, oh, very cool. So as program director, what are some of the things that you do on an everyday basis? I imagine you would have a fair amount of staff to manage.
Well, actually, I don't. We're actually we're a very small staff here. So in addition to being the program director, I'm also on air. So most days of the week you can hear me 1 to 5 p.m. But I do manage our two other staff who work for the classical station specifically. We're part of Louisville Public Media, and so we're 3 public radio stations in one organization, 3 entirely independent streams of content. We have all news, all classical, and all AAA. And so we have a larger staff that is shared. So we have membership and all that, underwriting staff, marketing that's shared among all 3 stations. But for our specific station, right now we're just 3. But we're going to grow to 4 hopefully in the next year or so. So I do manage our staff, and I also sort of guide the programming, as you would expect from a program director. I do writing for a whatsite, updating our social media, kind of a jack of all trades, master of none maybe, and whatever else that I feel needs to be done at the station, it kind of falls on me. So
it's a lot to manage, even if it's not a huge group of people. So before your current position, you were also the program director at Minnesota Public Radio, which syndicates throughout the state of Minnesota. Is that true?
I worked at Classical Minnesota Public Radio for 2 years.
2 years. I imagine that would have been a much bigger group.
Yeah, I mean the staff was a little bit bigger, but not as big as you might imagine. A much larger organization, though. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people just in St. Paul, and then staff throughout the state as well. So a much larger ship to steer, but the controls and the how you steer it is all basically the same. So if you can get past the size of the station, then it's no different than a smaller station, really. So
right. At Minnesota Public Radio, you were also in the same building as American Public Media, Public Radio International. Are there any others in there?
Well, I think PRI is actually now in Minneapolis, but definitely APM. And NPR in the same building and often integrated. So the classical department at APM NPR is on the same floor. Desks are intermingled, so there, if you were from the outside, you wouldn't know who was working for APM and who was working for NPR. So we're all one big happy. They were all, and we were, and they are still all one big happy family.
So on that note, did the state network share its programming with the national shows and vice versa while you were there?
Yeah, so the statewide network had its own stream of content separate from Classical 24, which is an APM PRI stream. But as Minnesota Public Radio, we did air, and they still do air, all of the APM shows, Pipe Dream, Symphony Cast, Performance Today, and also shared some hosting. So especially overnights, the Classical 24 hosts were also heard in the state of Minnesota. So there was some sharing of that as well.
So did you leave because you wanted to get back home? You're from Louisville, right?
Yeah, from Louisville, and just to be closer to home. That's usually a pretty important and magnetic thing that draws you back to your home base. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to your program director role at the station, you're also the weekday afternoon host, like you said. How does the afternoon shift compare to the mid-morning and the drive time day parts?
Well, we have a local host in the morning from 9 to 1, and my shift, I also do an afternoon request show on Fridays, so that's always a lot of fun. You get to hear directly from listeners more so than you do during the normal parts of the day. You know, I try to think of myself as a companion for those who are sort of in that last half of the workday, often kind of a slow period for a lot of people right after lunch, getting ready to go home. So I try to speak to that, you know, a little bit in what I do on air. But in general, you know, I try to, you know, you have to, you know, kind of remind yourself that people are listening at different points in their life. So some people are getting off work, but some people aren't working at all. Some people are just starting work. So you have to sort of keep your style somewhat, you know, generic and applicable to anyone, regardless of what they do.
Yeah, definitely. So now, you know, social media is so huge with, like, you know, every station has a social media page. For your request show on Fridays, are you getting those requests via social media, or are you getting those by phone?
I would say that I get maybe just a few more requests via Facebook than by phone. We promote usually the Facebook and the phone number rather than you know, the email or some other way of contacting us. I try to keep it, you know, simple so that I'm not saying too much in the break. But yeah, Facebook seems to be a good place for requests. A lot of the regulars like to use the phone, and occasionally we get an email request and that sort of thing. But definitely social media is playing a big part in that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So in addition to that show, you also produce and host the award-winning WUOL series, African American Voices. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, it's something I produced, I guess it was now a couple of years ago, a series of 15 short, sort of, I guess you could call them mini episodes, highlighting the contributions of African Americans to classical music, from, you know, some of the well-known names like Florence Price, or maybe she's not so well known actually. The composer Florence Price, lesser known, but Marian Anderson, you know, Paul Robeson, folks like that, conductors like James DePriest, Andre Watts, George Walker, and these were 3-minute vignettes that I produced. I wrote some of the scripts, but then I also worked with a gentleman named John Bewin who works in North Carolina, and he wrote some of the scripts as well. I had an intern actually write one, so one of those is hers. Yeah, these 15 vignettes highlighted their life and their work and their contributions through music, through interview segments, usually interview segments that I borrowed from other sources. Yeah, I thought they were, you know, really compelling features that really show the amazing contributions of some of these performers who in some cases are still not very well known.
Yeah, it's a fascinating idea. Did you come up with the premise for this show?
Yeah, you know, it's just one of those things that sort of comes to you, and you know, in those weird times when you're driving and, you know, spacing out, and you get a good idea, and I thought it was a pretty good idea. The idea is to also produce more of them in the future, so I haven't been doing that lately, but hopefully in the near future I'll create some new ones with some emerging artists as well.
I also see that you're very interested in the Louisville music community, and you're also the pre-concert host for the Louisville Orchestra. So what's that position like? Do you get free drinks at the bar?
I wish. No, I still have to pay for my own drinks, but I do get a free seat at the orchestra at the concert. So that's a nice payment for that. Yeah, I've done pre-concert talks over the years. I did some for the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, for the Duluth Superior Symphony Orchestra in Minnesota as well, and I did a few here in Louisville. And I thought it would be good if we became more of a ongoing partner with the orchestra for the pre-concert talks. So I talked to the folks there, and they liked the idea. So for the past 2 seasons, Classical 90.5 has been the pre-concert talk host. My colleague Alan Brandt, who's on in the mornings, does some of them. We sort of share, you know, split up the season and do those. So it's been great. I really enjoy doing it. You know, anyone who's in radio will tell you that it's a totally different experience talking to a microphone and to an audience that you can't see versus being in a room with 100 people and engaging them that way. I like both, and I think I learn a lot from both, both skill sets. But I get to interview the conductors, the guest soloists, maybe guest composers, and there's some audience interaction. The audience at the pre-concert talks do overlap with our listening audience, so I get to meet some of our listeners, and that's always a great experience to get to shake hands with some of the folks who are faithful listeners every day. So. Do
you have any standout moments from hosting these or interviewing?
Well, yeah, a lot of really amazing interviews, and the great thing about pre-concert talk interviews is that you can plan to a certain extent, but then anyone who interviews for radio shows or whatnot, you have to kind of plan for the unexpected and sort of go sometimes where the conversation leads you. So without being able to come up with one maybe specific one off the top of my head, excuse me, off the top of my head, I would say it's that surprise. Excuse me, some water here.
No worries.
It's that surprise, I think, in the interviews that's my favorite moment. It's the moment where you didn't know that you were going to talk about that one topic, but it happens, and the audience, I think, is genuinely surprised too, and they're always very appreciative of our interview style and how we let the guest take us down these unexpected paths. So.
So let's get away from radio. I know you're also a composer, yet another talent you have. So at what age did your music education start? Well,
I started, I think like a lot of musicians, I started at a young age and progressed through different paths, along the way. In high school, I did, choir, I did jazz band, and I kind of decided that I wanted to try, writing music. I don't remember the specific, reason why. I probably, like many composers, heard The Rite of Spring by Stravinsky and was, totally blown away by it. But I was also very captivated by Mozart and Brahms, and so I thought I'd, sort of see what that led to, and it led to, my college career path. So. I decided I would pursue composition for my bachelor's and master's degree. And then after my master's degree, I decided that I didn't want to go back and do a doctorate and pursue the academic or collegiate path. I wanted to sort of do things on my own and sort of figure out what this was going to be like without having to go through another degree. So that's kind of the path towards being a composer. So I do that, my other life as a composer, and I'm grateful to be writing mostly on commission and being able to work with performers that I admire and people that I want to work with. So.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about your compositions? Are you prolific, or do you have any favorite pieces that you've done?
Well, I would say I'm prolific. I work steadily. I kind of think of myself as a slow writer, I guess. Well, I've had a couple of works this year premiered that I'm very proud of and very happy with, both the music itself, but also the performances that they've yielded. I worked with one of our violinists in the Louisville Orchestra. He's the principal second violinist. His name is Rob Simons, and he made a beautiful recording of a piece called Music for Violin. It's about a 5-minute solo work for violin. He spends a lot of his career performing new music for solo violin, and that's something he's very passionate about. So as we became friends and got to know each other over the past few years, he asked me to write a piece for him. So you can hear that on my SoundCloud page. I upload most of what I've recorded and most of the recordings that I like and that I think are good representations, and I post those on SoundCloud. So you can hear them there.
Do you ever get to combine these two worlds? Do you ever get to feature any of your music on WUOL?
Well, No, I don't, and that's a line that I don't think I want to cross.
Yeah.
I think that the two worlds they overlap sometimes, and certainly some of the relationships that I've made either through radio or through composition inform the other. I've met some great people through being in radio that who've become friends and who I've ended up working with, and I think, as far as being a composer and working in radio, it's a mixed blessing, because I do have to listen to a lot of music being in radio. I get less time to sort of be quiet and listen to my own music. But at the same time, I get to hear a lot of things, and I'm constantly aware of what's going on in the music world, and sort of staying on top of that. But I do try to keep them separate, to some extent. But it's hard to. It's a small world, so.
Yeah, it's understandable. All right, so we have a few fun questions to end the hangout. Ready?
All right. Okay.
So first, if you could invite 3 people, dead or alive, to a dinner party, who would they be?
Let's see. I would probably invite Igor Stravinsky. I think that he, would be a terrific dinner companion.
Yeah.
I'll go with dead because alive that's kind of easy. I mean, I could say
still a chance.
Yeah, but if they're dead, there's no chance this is going to happen. So maybe the poet Wallace Stevens. Admire his work quite a bit and kind of fascinated by how he writes. Let's see. Have one more guest to invite. I would probably invite a dead president. I mean, who wouldn't want to talk to, someone like, I don't know, maybe one of the lesser-known presidents, like Calvin Coolidge or something like that. I don't know, Abraham Lincoln. Someone like that. It'd be a great dinner party. So.
Yeah. Interesting answers. So, if you had a time machine, what moment in history would you like to visit?
Oh wow. I think I would want to visit a time period that we know very little about. I wouldn't go back to, like, say, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and we have a lot of information about what happened then. I'd like to go back to, sort of prehistoric times. I'd like to see what the world looked like before we were able to, record it, in any kind of real way. So.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So lastly, as you know, we're dog crazy here at Crossword Media. And I saw your dog in the background there. What's his name?
His name is Walt.
Walt. Can we get him on screen?
Yeah, let's see here. If I can.
Do you know what key he barks in?
He doesn't bark a lot, actually.
Oh, lucky. Hi, Walt.
Say hi. He's a pretty quiet dog. He does, if he gets startled, or if he sees a rabbit, he'll kind of lose his mind. But he's a pretty quiet dog. So.
What kind of breed is he?
He is a Pekingese poodle mix.
Wow, adorable.
So I like to call him a knockoff of a Maltese or a Shih Tzu or something like that. But yeah, he doesn't shed. He's very gentle and pretty endearing. So
yeah, he's a dream dog.
yeah, we like him.
Hi, Walt. Thanks for being on the hangout, buddy. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Daniel.
Thank you,
and once again, congrats on being our featured programmer. It was
great having me. Yeah, you too. Thanks so much.
So, to people watching, please check out the Hangout on the Crossword Media YouTube page. We have a ton of great artist interviews and material available on our SoundCloud as well for download. That is on our SoundCloud. You can access it on crosswordmedia.net in the upper right-hand corner. You can also access our Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube page there as well. And yeah, so thanks so much for watching, and thanks again, Daniel.
Thank you. Bye.